If you've spent a weekend scrolling through endless telescope forums, watching unboxing videos, and still feel like you're stuck between a backyard starter scope and a professional-grade instrument, you're not alone. The whole point of a review like this is to cut through the hype and help you decide if the NexStar 8SE actually fits the night ski moments you're dreaming about. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest source of hesitation for most newcomers is the fear of spending a few $100s on a machine that ends up collecting dust because it's too fiddly or doesn't deliver the views they imagined. On the other side of the coin, seasoned hobbyists worry about overpaying for features they'll never use, or buying a scope that promises computerized convenience but turns out to be a headache to set up each time they go out. The NexStar 8SE sits right in the middle of that tension, an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain optical tube paired with a GoTo mount that claims fast and easy alignment. The question is whether those promises translate into real-world nights under the stars. Let's talk about the actual experience of getting the NexStar 8SE out of the box. The package comes with a fairly compact tube, a sturdy Altaz fork mount, the NexStar Plus hand controller, and a small tripod that's surprisingly robust for its weight. The first thing you notice is the balance of the tube on the mount. It feels solid, and because it's a Schmidt-Cassegrain design, the tube length is short enough to maneuver in a modest backyard. Setting it up takes about 10 minutes if you follow the quick start guide, but the real test is the skyline routine. You point the telescope at any 3 bright objects, usually planets, bright stars, or the moon, and the hand controller does the math for you. In practice, the alignment works well on clear nights, and the whole process feels genuinely automated rather than a series of guesswork steps. For a user who has been intimidated by manual star hopping, that can be a game changer. Now, who actually benefits from this level of automation? If you're an amateur astronomer who wants to get decent planetary detail, think Saturn's rings or Jupiter's cloud belts without spending weeks learning a classic equatorial mount, the NexStar 8SE is a solid match. The 8-inch aperture gathers enough light to resolve those features at 100x or more, and the GoTo database, which includes over 40,000 objects, means you can point at a deep sky target like the Orion Nebula with a few button presses. Families with kids who are curious about the night sky also find value here. The hand controller's menu is intuitive enough for a teenager to navigate, and the excitement of instantly landing on a target can keep the whole household engaged. Conversely, the scope isn't the best fit for 2 distinct groups. First, the ultra-purist who already owns a high-end equatorial mount and a larger aperture will likely see the NexStar 8SE as a compromise. The GoTo system, while convenient, adds weight and complexity that can limit tracking accuracy for long-exposure astrophotography. If you plan to spend hours on a single deep sky object, the mount's periodic error, something you can correct on a higher-end equatorial, will become noticeable. Second, absolute beginners who have never looked through a telescope might still find the initial learning curve steep. Although Skyline simplifies alignment, you still need to understand basic concepts like polar alignment, even if the mount does a pseudo version, and how to manage the dew shield in humid conditions. Skipping those basics can lead to frustration before you even hit the first planet. When it comes to practical strengths, the first thing that stands out is the optical performance relative to the price point. An 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain delivers sharp, high-contrast images that can surprise someone buying a first serious scope. I've spent several evenings on the moon, and the crater detail rivals that of far more expensive telescopes on the market. Another strength is the ecosystem of Celestron Accessories. The 8SE is fully compatible with additional focal reducers, motorized focusers, and even astrophotography adapters, meaning you can upgrade the system without buying an entirely new mount. That modularity adds long-term value if you decide to grow your hobby. On the flip side, there are some practical weaknesses that buyers should weigh. The primary one is the weight. The whole setup tips the scales at around 30 pounds, which makes transportation a bit of a chore. If you live in an apartment or plan to take the scope to remote dark sky sites, you'll need a sturdy car roof rack or a dedicated carrying case, both of which add extra cost. Another downside is the reliance on the hand controller's battery. The device uses AA batteries and can die unexpectedly during a long session, forcing you to have spares on hand. Finally, while the GoTo database is extensive, it's not infallible. In areas with heavy light pollution, The mount sometimes struggles to lock onto faint objects, and you may need to revert to manual slewing. That's not a deal breaker, but it's a reminder that the computerized label doesn't replace a basic understanding of the